You're listening to the Canadian Women of the Outdoors podcast, the first podcast by Canadian women for Canadian women about Canadian women. Brought to you by Revolution Armory. Join the revolution. And True North Baits, superior quality fishing tackle. See what the fuss is about. For 10% off all plastics, use code CWO10. Enjoy the episode.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Canadian Women of the Outdoors podcast. I know we've had a bit of a break there. Summer was crazy with 3 kids and lots of different sports, but now that they're back to school, I have a little bit more time to get back into the things that I like doing, like this podcast. I'm really excited for our guest today. But before we introduce her, big thanks to our sponsors, Revolution Armory. Can't wait. I'm hoping to get out this coming weekend to get on some goose with my new gun from them. And as always, tried and true North Baits. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring us. Use code CWO10 for 10% off all their plastics. And with fall season among us and ice fishing season coming, it's definitely good to start stocking up. Okay. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our next guest who's coming to us from Manitoba. So now I've got an East Coaster and a Central Canadian. I'm really excited about that. Selena Sacher.
Hi, thanks for having me today. I'm really excited to be here.
Welcome to the show. Yeah, I'm really excited. I think it's kind of neat, and we'll get into it later, that, again, from a different province. Like, I've had a bunch of people from Ontario, but what we're going to talk about is vastly different in your province. So, So why don't we get started? Let's introduce yourself, where you grew up, where you are now, what got you into the outdoors. Like, have you always fished? Do you camp, hunt, all that kind of stuff?
So I've been born and raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I plan to stay in Manitoba forever. I love our province. We have so many lakes around, and I'm very thankful to be born here. I had a cabin growing up. However, my family is not really big into fishing. I was kind of the black sheep. So I was in grade 5 when this whole journey started, and I got a milk, and when you'd open it up, if it mooed, you'd win this prize. It was this thing that we had in Manitoba. And
Never heard of it, but that's cool.
Yeah, it's different. And if it mooed, you'd win a prize. And at that time, my mom was the hot lunch mom. And my milk mooed, and I get to pick a prize. So it was a Barbie set, a car set, or a fishing rod set for kids. I was like, I want that. And I pointed at the fishing rod set. My mom was like, nah, like, you want the Barbie set. And I was like, nope, no, I don't want to try that. And so I took the rod combo. It was just a little box of plastics, a couple hooks and bobbers. Took it to my cabin in Kenora, and then just started fishing off the dock. Eventually, I got a new rod. My first rod was from Canadian Tire. It was actually a sturgeon rod, and I thought it was for walleye. So I had a lot of epic fails throughout my journey to where I am now, and actually am a better angler now. I'm currently with Streamside, and I do a lot of fishing with their rods, and they're incredible. I go to all over the Manitoba. I'll go to isolated lakes, summer fish, winter fish, you name it. I love it.
So what was the very first fish you caught on that little rod then?
Yes, I do, because I was actually traumatized. So my first fish I caught on my little kid's rod was a walleye. And I was so excited. Yeah, off the dock in Kenora, Ontario. And I netted it, and I ran up to the cottage to show my family. And I was like, this is Freddie. I'm going to keep it. And my grandpa hits it over with the club, and I'm like, I was stunned. I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh my gosh. He's like, we have dinner now. Thanks. I was like, what? So it was a little terrifying as a kid. Took me a couple months to get back on the horse of trialing and fishing and understanding. But now I have no problem filleting fish, anything. I'm okay.
So Kenora, is that, I guess, close to the border then?
Very close to Kenora, Ontario. So it's like from Winnipeg to Kenora, Ontario, it's about 2-hour drive.
Okay, so it's kind of like our equivalent of just going up north to the cottage or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not bad. And do you still have that cottage cabin thing?
No, I lost it when we lost it when I was about 15 years old.
Okay.
Just got rid of it. but it didn't change me. I still went from lake to lake to lake, and I started exploring at around 16. Second I got my driver's license, boom, I was gone. I was gonna see what's out there.
Now, are you in Winnipeg now? Like, you're based in Winnipeg now?
Yep.
So you just travel around, because I know, like, with us, like in Ontario, we have a lot of the Great Lakes. Obviously, I think we're bordered on 4 of them, but for all of them, I don't know. But you only have like the backwoods, like small lakes up there, right? So do you go in, like, again, because I'm not sure the fishing out there, is it kayak, canoe? Like, do you have a boat that you take onto these lakes, or shore fishing? Like, what kind
So
of?
when I went for those catfish, I usually go up to, we have a river nearby us that's called the Red River. And so if you drive to the Red River, you can pretty much do shore fishing for drum, cat, sometimes walleye, lots of sauger. And that's a good way for beginner fisher people that don't have boats or have access to those things to learn and try and do some fishing there. So I do that often, especially in June and May when the ice is kind of defrosting and there's a whole bunch of debris. I'll stick to shore fishing for a little bit. And then once it's good, then I go back to boating. So I'll take my boat out on Lake Winnipeg. I've gone to Pelican Lake. I've gone far up north, we have a lake called Burntwood Lake Lodge. So that's like 7 to 10 hours from Winnipeg, and done some big pike fishing up there. And then I've done clear water fishing for big lakers. We have so many lakes around here. They're not huge like what you're used to, but they're still big enough that you can catch large species. And in Manitoba, we have a Manitoba Anglers Award system. So you catch a slot size of a walleye bigger than 28 inches, and it's considered a master. And then you can submit it. And after you catch 5 of one species, you get a little pin. So it pushes you to kind of challenge yourself as little goals to catch these unique species all over Manitoba, because you want to catch that next pin and get that next level up. It's like a game for us, essentially.
I have 2 questions from that conversation. That catfish, how much did that thing weigh?
Oh, I didn't even weigh it, but I could tell you right now, my arms were shaking trying to pick that up.
What's the story? Like, did it put up a fight? See, I've never caught a catfish in my life. It's on my bucket list. And like a big one like that would be amazing. Like, what's the fight like with them? And what were you using?
So catfish really have these intense, thick skinned lips. So you have to use C-type hooks. They're really thick, really large. And you put a shrimp on it and you just kind of feed the shrimp through, leave it suspended above with a weight. Catfish can't see, so they go based off smell. So the stinkier the shrimp, the better. And you launch it out into the river, make sure your line's really tight. And when they take it, you'll know, because your rod will just bend fast, aggressively. And you do a quick pull set to hook it in, and then the fight's on. The drag peel can last anywhere from 5 minutes to half an hour, depending on how thick your line is, how light your drag is, and how strong the current is. I find they tend to roll. So when they've got the hook in, they'll roll and try and weave through the rocks. They do the
musky roll.
Yeah. And then it takes forever to untangle them once you get them onshore, because you got to unweave them. Yeah. But they're heavy. They're thick fish. Like
the picture you sent me, the picture I seen, I was like, oh my God, that thing, like that. It looked like it weighed as much as a human. Like,
oh yeah,
like you got like a tiny toddler. Or a toddler, probably like an 8-9-year-old in your hands right there. It was huge.
Oh, yeah. Like, I shake when I hold them because they're too big for me sometimes.
Yeah. It's one of those like, okay, take the picture. And
quick release.
Back.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, so you mentioned clear water fishing for trout. Is that like sight fishing? Like, are you literally just looking for the trout?
So clear water, which is kind of by the Paw, which is about 7 hours for us up north. Their lake is like insanely clear. So it's anywhere from 80 to 100 feet, but it's clear. Like it's actually a clear lake. You can see easily, I'd say 40 to 50 feet down sometimes when there's zero movement. Like you can see the fish swimming. You could watch your tube drop very far. It's wild. So we go from like extreme murky places like the river, which have our cats, to extreme clear places like Clear Lake.
Well, and I mean, like, if that's super far north, like, again, it's probably cleaner up there, so there's not much. Like here, like, we don't have any kind of clean water really here. We're lucky if we get clean water. So what is your favorite species to target in all of this? Sounds like you go after everything, but do you have a favorite?
Are we talking winter or summer?
Ooh, okay. We'll go both. Let's start with summer. We'll start with summer.
Summer, I really enjoy the black crappie. I love the color. I love their little panfish. That we usually have to go and either portage into another lake, or it's at Caddy Lake we can get them, sometimes Lee River. We have lots of options for those, but I love the color they have. I love the thinness because they just cut the water really quick, and they're easy to lose because their lips super thin. So I kind of like that challenge. I also would say I'm huge into walleye, and a lot of people are going to hate me for this, northern pike. I like northern pike fishing. I like the intense fight, the drag peel over and over again. I like those two other species as well for summer fishing. Can't go wrong with walleye for a good fish fry. That's all I got to say.
No, and I mean, I feel you. I actually love northern pike as well, and I also eat I do a lot of ice fishing for pike, and I will eat the pike I pull, because if it's a decent eater, like, I think northern pike is delicious. I mean, I'm not going to eat like a big one if I pull it out, but like a decent eater size, like, I think there's nothing wrong with that. And so your favorite winter fish then, because ice fishing, like, how early does ice start out there?
Usually around November, December. It depends on,
So jealous. Like,
why? When's yours?
We barely got ice last year. I think I got out twice. We didn't have ice until like end of January.
What?
And it was gone by like beginning of March.
What's the thickest it gets there?
Not very thick. Like, probably, depending on our winters, because Ontario winters, like, they are hit and miss. Like, we've had winters where the ice has gotten like 18 inches, and then we've had winters where the ice has gotten like 12 inches. Like, the amount of sleds that went into our big ice fishing lake, Lake Simcoe, this year was insane. People were just not paying attention, and their sleds went in. Like, it's crazy.
We lose a lot of trucks here too. Not as much sleds, but again, it's more so people that are eager to get on at the first nip they can, but it's not necessarily safe. I don't recommend people ice fishing unless you go with someone you know knows the ropes, or if you know it's safe enough and you've got the right equipment, because it can change on a dime. Like, our big windy out there, if the wind direction changes at all when we're on Lake Winnipeg, also known as Big Windy, we call it, you could totally lose sight of land. You can't get back, and you have to GPS your way back.
So it was funny. We actually, because we had no ice, we traveled up to Kirkland Lake last year, which is up like near, like, way up northern Ontario on like the Quebec border. And the girl that we went with, she brought like wood and axes. She's like, if the wind turns and we get trapped out here, there's like permanent huts out here that we're gonna have to break into to like stay overnight and keep warm. I'm like, that's terrifying. Like, yeah. I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm not used, because it was one of those, like, we drove like 45 minutes to the bush, and then through the bush it was another 45 minutes to get to this lake. And then again, like, to get to the spot where we were fishing, like a half-hour quad ride on, or a half-hour sled ride on this lake. And she's like, yeah, no, if we get trapped out here and the wind turns and we can't see, all these huts, like, it's kind of a respect thing. If you get trapped, you get trapped. You just pay for a new lock type thing, and you bring your own wood to start the fire.
Wow, that's intense. That is pretty intense.
I was like, we got back. We made it back, but I was like, wow, that is. So is it like that out there too, or
Well, I would say a lot of people have courtesy where, like, if they know, like, same thing, if something really happened and winds went south in certain lakes, and you had to break in again, you just know you'd have to bring your own safety stuff. But I'd say Lake Winnipeg is probably the only lake that really gets super whiteouty because it's so big. Like if you look at Manitoba, Lake Winnipeg is just like a huge thing in the middle. So that would be the only place I could say where we would have those concerns. I mean, when I do backcountry camping or ice fishing in the backwoods, we always bring firewood. We always bring a pop-up tent and try to be as prepared as possible for if you do have to stay overnight, you can make it through the night. So bring extra food, all that kind of stuff. And I'd say we're really good here. Like we're known as friendly Manitoba, not always friendly Manitoba, but if something happens on Lake Winnipeg, everyone knows you can go and drive up to someone else's car or wave your hands or walk by and tug them out or boost their car or give them a hand in whatever way they need.
Well, that's good.
I feel like the fishing community here is really good about supporting each other and making sure everyone's safe. There's a lot of people that want to learn more about fishing. I think it hit more once we went through COVID and all that stuff. A lot more people got interested in. I've done a couple like fishing seminars for women to help encourage girls to. Yeah, I think it's neat because I never got taught a lot on fishing. I was self-taught. Like I said, I had a sturgeon rod. I thought that was for walleye at the start. I totally butchered fishing. And there was no YouTube or Google back then that you could just like, hey, let's just play a video to see what to do. It was total trial and error. So I take what I've learned and taught myself over the years, and I love sharing it with people. Anyone that wants to know something, I'm more than happy to share.
So whereabouts do you run those seminars, or do you actually take the woman like out into like, okay, girls, come fishing with me. Then this is how I'm going to teach you.
Yeah, I would take a group out of people that want to learn. Or we did one that was at Pelican Lake with a group of girls through DSG. They ran it. And then I went out there because I just wanted to get to know them. Again, you want to try and meet more people so that way you can build new connections, learn how to catch new species. It's also like that's a one pro to social media, I feel, is you get to meet all these awesome people. I would have never met you through Instagram because we live in two totally different provinces. But it's nice to get to hear how fishing's like there and what it's like here. What kind of stuff do you like versus us? So I'm thankful for that.
Well, and then it also gives you options too. Like if you ever wanted to come down to Southern Ontario to Lake St. Clair, where like massive muskie fishing, or Lake Erie or something like that, it's like now you know people that live in Southern Ontario, and same like, hey, I'm coming to Manitoba, like I'm planning a visit, like do you want to go fishing, like yada yada yada. It's one of those things where it's, and like Manitoba is on my bucket list because again, ice fishing is my favorite, which we're going to get back around to. Ice fishing is my favorite, and I'm still dying to get a Laker. I have not gotten a Laker yet, and I've seen some of the Lakers that are pulled out in Manitoba, and I'm like, I want that. I want that one.
Oh yeah,
so
they're a good fight.
What is your favorite ice fishing winter fish to catch?
I didn't go the last 2 years. Actually, I haven't gone in 3 years now for lake trout. But when I did go last, I caught a massive, like 40-incher. It was insane. The drag peel, I think it took me half an hour to 40 minutes to reel it in because it just kept drag peeling. And again, you're 80 feet deep. So I really like fishing for lake trout. But I'd say I most often fish for walleye in the winter time, just because I don't know, it's more convenient. I like the color. They look different in the winter versus the summertime. You can't access all the same lakes you can in the summertime. Like summer, I do a lot of bush camping. I'm young. I try and move around to as much isolated places as I can. And then when I get older, then I'll kind of slow down maybe on my craziness. We'll see.
No, you won't. It's a passion. It will never die. I'm in my 30s and I'm like, ugh, like it's a struggle, but I do it.
Yeah.
So with either like both, like what is your go-to lures? Like do you switch it up, or do you have like certain lures that you like to go for each fish? Or like my one friend Tara, just to give an example, my one friend Tara, she uses a cotton cordell on everything. That's all she uses. That's all she throws. And I've seen her catch pike, walleye, bass with it. However, I use different things for different fish. Are you the same way, or do you have like a go-to that's kind of an all-around one you like to use?
So if we're talking fishing, I usually have a rattle on. And I really like Element Custom Baits. It's this guy that makes local baits in Manitoba. He makes these very unique baits that you can't get a lot of. He'll do a small batch at a time, and the fish just love the sound of that rattle, and they'll smack it. Yeah. I also am a huge fan of Dan and Alicia. They do Big Skies and Flies jigs.
Okay.
And they make these awesome, strong, heavy-duty jigs. And again, they're one of my favorites because if you catch a pike, you catch a drum, you catch a walleye, it can withstand those crazy species. Because Lake Winnipeg, you can catch five to six different species in one day. It's nuts.
That's crazy.
It's very hard to go to Lake Winnipeg and target just one species, because all of a sudden you've got a pike smacking it, you've got a burbot, you got a perch, sauger. Like it's all these options in that lake. So for Lake Winnipeg, I usually do more jig and minnowing or heavy duty rattles, because they need to withstand that heavy smack or the weight of those big fish, or the heavy fish, I should say.
Yeah.
And then if I'm like, I enjoy trolling. So I use a lot of Berkeley tackle. It's kind of funny because I got a dog this year named Berkeley, and I named him Berkeley because I like their crankbaits. So I like a lot of those crankbaits. I try to stick to chartreuse colors. I find those ones work the best in our lakes here in Manitoba. They like the bluey greens, perch looks, anything like that is super popular here for us. And I would say those three are my go-tos usually.
Now, what's the biggest fish you've ever caught, and what species was it?
Oh, geez, weight or length?
Let's do both. Okay, what's the biggest length you've caught and the biggest weight you've caught?
Okay, my biggest length right now is a 42.5-inch northern pike, and it was pretty wild. Yeah, I actually didn't even have it on my hook. I was out in a backcountry lake. I caught a walleye on my crankbait. When I was reeling it in, all of a sudden this northern pike just surfaced, grabbed the walleye sideways, and just totally dolphin submerged and landed back in the water. And it dragged me. And I'm like, holy crap, I'm going to lose this big berth on the end of this walleye. And then we're in a tiny canoe. I had a little tiny net. I was in a canoe with a little net. And it was a joke, like watching us try and flip this giant pike in and land it without it releasing my walleye, because it never clamped onto the hook. So at any point in time, that lockjaw could have come undone and could have spit the walleye. But as we got it closer, I was like, screw it. I threw the rod in the bow of the canoe, and then I just submerged my arms under. He netted the head because, again, you don't want to get chomped by those big teeth. And I flopped it in there, and I was just like, I was shaking with excitement. I was like, as if that just happened.
That's wild. Like in a canoe too. It wasn't even like you were reeling in a completely different fish, and all of a sudden, and like the fact that it stayed on there, that's impressive. Like that's.
Oh, I did not think it was going to stay on at all.
Apparently, I wanted to keep its dinner.
Oh yeah. But I didn't let it have the walleye. I didn't even keep the walleye because I felt so bad. I was like, you just went through a super traumatic event. I'll let you go. I'll catch another one.
I was going to ask, so what happened with the walleye? Did you the pike got to keep it, or?
No, I took it out of the pike's mouth once it finally unlocked its jaw. And then I just kind of, it still was alive. It had huge gash marks, like massive teeth marks in it. But it was still full of energy. So I was like, okay, you want to try and take off? You do your thing, buddy. And then I released the walleye, and after that I released the pike. But that was crazy because I've gone up north to Burntwood, which is a huge pike fishing lodge we have in Manitoba. And I've targeted northern pikes, but that one was the most unique and interesting pike fishing experience I've ever had. I don't even think I'll ever have that again in my lifetime.
Probably not. It's one of those things where it's like that's like it's a once in a lifetime thing. Like there was one 2 years ago I was ice fishing, and I had a tip up down with a predator rig with just 2 treble hooks, and I caught a pike on each treble hook, and I landed them both.
Gosh. No way.
I landed them both. It's actually, I had to get it mounted because that's never going to happen again in my life. And my one was a 10-pound, 10-pound, 30-incher. That was my biggest pike to date. Doesn't compare to Manitoba, but that's big here. But yeah, no, I had to stick my arm in the hole. And because I was just like, I want the big one. I didn't really know what was going to happen, but I stuck my arm in, pulled it, and both came out. And I was like, yeah, that's my once in a lifetime. I'm never going to do this again. Like, there was one pike on each hook.
And how big was your hole?
About 12 wide.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it was funny. Like, when I started to pull it up, I was like, there's something big on here. And then I got to like close to the surface and I seen the two heads. I was like, no, it's not big. There's two of them. And
that is like, insane.
Oh yeah. And I'm like,
I think you're the first person I've ever heard that has had that happen to them.
The amount that story has circulated like in the fishing community in this area here, like everybody knows about it. Cause it's like, again, it's like, how does that never happens? That's why when I got it mounted, I was like, yeah, it's not the biggest pike ever, but it's a story that is never, ever going to happen again.
No.
Like, and the fact that I landed them both.
Oh, like, and you're pretty brave for shoving your hand down the hole when there's pike at the other end.
I couldn't see. I was like, I just can't let this go. I was just kind of like, I was going off feel. I was kind of feeling, and I'm like, okay, okay, good. Like it was intense. It was kind of like that. I was like, what are we going to do? Because obviously you don't want to hurt the fish. So we have to somehow get these hooks out of the fish, which involves us taking them out of the hole. So it was crazy. Okay. And then, so your biggest weight fish.
Okay. We don't weigh them. Like, I don't weigh them. I shouldn't say we. I don't weigh my fish because our angler program goes based off of lengths here for different species. But based off of feel that I've experienced, I would have to say it was that laker I caught up in Clear Lake, because it was so heavy. When it barely fit through my 10-inch hole, like barely. It took me a while to navigate it, to get its head up properly straight, to be able to pull it out. And its gut on that thing just sucked up the hole completely. Like, it just, you had to like squeeze it in there and pop it out.
Like,
and then
suck it in.
Yeah, exactly. Please don't lose yourself. I would shove my hand in its mouth, no questions asked. Same as you, because when you have those experiences where you have a once in a lifetime fishing experience, you got to do what you got to do to get that fish on land or on ice.
Yeah. Well,
and once it was on the ice, I could only pick up half of it at the time. I couldn't pick both up because it was just that thick. So I picked up the head half, which was 3 of my head sizes, maybe 2 or 3 of my head was the size of this trout's head. And then my cousin had to pick its butt end up and lift it and drop it on my hand/knee. And I was just shaking. I'm like, please don't make the photos blurry, because it was heavy. It was super heavy.
I apparently need to come to Manitoba to get my lake trout. My goodness. Like,
you should. They're fun. They are a lot of fun.
Like, so around here, I'm used to like trout, like just kind of playing dead. And like people say that the fight is not that great. Again, I've never caught one. They're just kind of like, yeah, it's just like reeling in like a heavy thing. It's not great. Like, do they put up a fight out there? Is it different? Like, how, like, again, is it different out there?
So the Lakers, for us, they like to chase. So I have a fish finder that you can see, and it's a sonar, so you can see kind of when a fish comes in, but it's not a live scope. It's just a fish finder. And so if I have it drop through the ice, then you can see kind of your hook, and then you'll see like once in a while like a blip of a fish come in and swim by. And they love to chase, so they're very aggressive. They don't want to just see a little jig like a walleye would, or a crappie or a perch. They want to have like an aggressive, so you crank quick and then you drop fast, and then you crank quick and then you drop fast.
So you have to put in work.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of work to land one. They aren't stupid. They're very smart, and they can see very good. So you have to make sure, like, if you're going to use braid, at the end is where you would attach like monofilament in a uni knot, because if they can see the braid, they're like, yeah, right, I'm not hitting that. I know that's fake. Like, they're very smart.
How much mono would you put on, again, because we do have Lakers here and I'm still trying to chase after my first Laker. So how much mono would you put on the end of your braid?
I like to do around 4 feet.
Oh, okay, that much. Okay.
That might be a little bit much for some people, but I like that a little bit of elasticity in it too. Versus
And
the
what
braid
weight?
it gives them.
What
Well,
weight are you?
Oh, for the tube jigs?
No, for the mono, because you know how whatever the line weight, whatever.
Oh,
8
for
pound test
lake
or
trout, I do both 20. They
okay.
are very strong, and they are very good at kind of being docile and then all of a sudden like giving it another run, and then it
Okay.
just loosens and stretches out the line till eventually it snaps. So to prevent that, I usually try to go for 20-pound or 15-pound test when I go for Lakers, just because of that. Same thing with cat, because again, that big cat you saw me have, I would never have landed that with the basic 6 or 8 pound test line that you could use for walleye, because those things are just giant. Some people call them trash bags because they just roll in the mud and the dirt.
Yeah.
So I try to go a little heavy when I'm targeting those two species.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to go for like brown trout, brook trout, rainbow trout, you don't have to be that excessive. Just those big Lakers, they are insanely strong. And again, when you set the hook, because when you're 80 feet deep, setting the hook isn't just like a little bit. You have to like put the pull through the roof in some cases of your fishing.
Your tournament setting.
Really? Oh,
you
it's
got a
insane.
Tournament set it. Yeah.
Exactly. And you wrench it, and then once you've set it in there, it's almost impossible to get them to spit it because their lip is super thick, kind of like, again, like cat. And then again, the drag is on. Like, you just play them out until they get tired. And once they get tired, the last, I'd say 10 feet, 5 feet up is where they finally chill out. And then right when they get to that hole, they'll spike back down to 20 feet again. So it can take up to half an hour to reel some of those guys in.
Holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want
They're
one
really
so bad.
cool.
It sounds like so much fun. Like, I want one so bad. I'm hoping our winter's a little better this year, but
have you heard if it's going to be better in your area?
Oh, I have no idea. The weather changes so constantly here, and like the weatherman like have no idea what they're talking about. Like they said this past weekend it was gonna rain or something like that, but it ended up being beautiful. And I'm like, I can't keep up with your non-existent weather. It's hard too because like a lot of our lakes are like Lake Simcoe, it's deep, and that's where our lake trout are. Like Lake Simcoe is very deep. So it's kind of hard for that to freeze over because we don't have the cold climate that you guys do, which really sucks. Like, that's why we ended up traveling. Like, so where we went fishing on that lake that I was saying, that was 7-8 hours north of us. Because that's where we had to go for ice. Because there was really, like, even when we went fishing on the ice around us, it was still kind of sketchy. Like, it was slip and slide and, like, yeah, it was safe, but it was still, like, I like 12 inches of ice. I fell through the ice as a kid, and now I'm just like, I really like to make sure it's safe ice. So
that's fair. You've had a traumatic experience, it sounds.
Well, yeah, it wasn't pleasant. But yeah, even like again, seeing those people with their sleds getting dumped into Lake Simcoe, it's like, guys, you gotta like watch the weather, like know where you're going before you go anywhere. Like,
and the map too, right? Like if they have big boulders in certain areas, that's going to be weaker ice. Yeah. And if you don't know what you're looking at underneath the ice, you're in trouble.
Yep.
Because I find one of the biggest problems is they'll be driving on the ice or snowmobiling on the ice and then hit this section where there's that big boulder and it's just thin around the area and boom, the truck goes through. And it's scary. Like, you got to get out of there quick.
It's terrifying. It's actually it's very terrifying. And I wish, like, yeah, you see online and stuff like that, they should have like a seminar on like what to do if you fall through the ice. Like, yeah, like that would be very helpful. Like a friend of mine, she fell through the ice last year. She knew what to do, thank God. So she came, and she was right by the dock, so perfect for her. So she was able to maneuver herself back up. But again, it's one of those things where it's a reality if you're not gonna. And I mean, what is it they say? No ice is safe ice.
Yeah.
Like, no ice is safe ice. Even though it is my favorite, I love ice fishing. It's my favorite thing ever. I love getting out there. we actually plan, hopefully, again, if the weather cooperates, we have ice fishing huts that we're going to set up to camp on, like put up cots and everything like that. So,
oh, wow.
yeah, so we're hoping to do that this year. We were going to do it last year, but again, the weather didn't cooperate. So this year we're hoping to do that because we have a lake that we really like that has a lot of perch in it. And I don't know about you, but I love eating perch. Tacos. Perch tacos are delicious. So we're hoping to do that this year. Now with your fishing, I'm assuming with all the different species that you're fishing, because it sounds like, again, in your home lake, there's like 5. Do you have different rods for that, or are you just rocking one rod for like when you're just going out, but are like if you're targeting something, do you have a different rod for that type thing? Or
yeah, if you're going to target something like so I'm with Streamside, I have a Predator Apex and a Predator Elite. The Predator Elite is more of like a light medium tip, so it's better suited for like your perch, your sauger, your ones that are going to be more finicky and the easier to feel hook set. I do more my medium action in the summertime with my Predator Elite at Lake Winnipeg, because again, if you catch a drum, well, if it's not medium action and it's a light action or a light medium, that tip's going to snap, because the drum that we have here, or cat, or even walleye, they can be really strong and thick. So I try to stick to medium action. And then if I'm going to target my big Berthas, like my cats and stuff, then I switch to a heavier rod. And you want to either go medium heavy or just straight heavy, because the weight on those things they're just thick. And you're also at times having to drag them through the weed bed or the muck. So they try and scoop that all up and just keep adding weight because they want to try and snap that line.
Well, it's, so yeah, I try to. It's funny, that catfish picture, like it looks like it's so thick, like it's just kind of like pooling on your hands. Like there's just, it's a beast. It's a beast. For those listening, for those listening, if you haven't seen the post that I'm posting to Instagram, that's a picture part of it. You guys got to see this catfish. It's absolutely huge. So do you eat the fish that you catch, or some of the fish, or what's your favorite? Like you say you fillet. So
yeah, you're gonna laugh at me because everyone does. I actually don't like fish. I know.
Person.
Okay.
You're not the first person, so
for me it's a flaky thing. As soon as, like, you know how walleyes kind of got like a flaky texture? I don't even know if that makes sense. Okay, see, as soon as it moves in my mouth, it's like, nope, can't do it. So my family is massive walleye and perch and pike eaters. They love those 3 species, and black crappie. I'm targeting those species. Yes, exactly. A lot of people don't think that, but I'd say once you've made perch, crappie, pike, and walleye, most people will actually say they like crappie the best around here. Yep. That I've talked to, and that's their opinion, because again, I don't eat fish, so I'm no expert here, but I have no problem cutting it up. I have no problem filleting it, filleting it, deep frying it, you name it, I can do all that. It's just
so you feed your family essentially.
Oh yeah, 100%. They get so fired up when I go fishing because they don't care about the whole process per se. They're supportive, but they're more so excited when I come home with dinner. Then they're like, yeah, fish fry. Everyone come over to the house and we do big family fish fries. Or my friend group's super big into fish fries, so we do a lot of that if we're backcountry camping. And then I'll have my chicken fingers or whatever. Probably steak. Actually, I'm a big steak person, so I would get like my steak.
Do you don't hunt at all, do you, or do you hunt?
I don't hunt yet. I have my gun license. I don't have my you have to get another one for hunting. So I have my gun license, and then our hunter's license I don't have yet. I'm not opposed to it. I honestly just haven't. I'm so addicted to fishing. I don't have time to do anything else. Like it's like we have a couple months of the year where we're not able to fish, maybe 2, 3. And during that time, I'm doing house projects because it's like, okay, quick, crunch time, get all this stuff done because fishing season's about to start again.
Okay. I don't want any plans during fishing season, okay? This is the priority, right?
Don't talk to me. I don't have time for you guys. Strictly fishing business.
My phone's on do not disturb for like 8 months out of the year.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I love the sport. Like it's a huge adrenaline rush.
Oh yeah.
For me. Like I am a adrenaline junkie in that aspect where I just love the fight of the big fish. I love trying to find them. Wintertime, I don't know if you do this. We call it running and gunning here.
Drill holes and go and
we Swiss cheese the lake, or we have all these weird sayings we call it here.
Yeah, no, I've run and gunned before, yep.
Yeah, we love that. So we'll start on ice usually around 7 a.m. and we'll just follow the fish, and you just keep chasing them. You go and you follow them wherever they go in the lake, and as the day goes on, so they'll start off shallower and then they go kind of deeper, and you go with the flow of the fish. And for me, that's also a lot of fun. And it's a big workout. They say fishing isn't a workout. That's a lie. I swear I am super sore after every time.
Well, not only that, like, again, if you're canoeing or kayaking for fishing, that in itself is a workout. Never mind if you're actually catching fish when you're doing such a thing. Like, so for your pike, when you canoed, that's a workout. And then you caught the fish. There's another workout. It's like, all right, I can ignore arm day for the next 4 days. Thank you, though.
Yep. Yeah. Where's that cheeseburger and chocolate bar at?
Yeah. I need a chocolate milkshake stat. Like, give me the sugar rush.
Yes.
Give me the sugar rush. That's amazing. Oh my God. I'm actually, so we're getting close to our time now. I'm really glad that I had you on because, again, it's a totally different perspective in Manitoba. I will probably have you on again after ice fishing season to hear about some stories of that. Because I feel like we probably could keep talking. But thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. So where can people find you on the social medias?
So I'm written down. I mainly do Instagram. I have Facebook, but honestly, I don't really use it.
Who does use Facebook anymore?
I use it for Marketplace, to be honest. That's where I use it.
I do.
Okay, cool. So no, I'm on Instagram and I'm called Boater Woman. So that's kind of like if you were to search me up, I'm Boater Woman. I'm sure if you typed in Selena Sacher, you'd see Boater Woman. But that's where I post all my fishing pictures. If anyone ever has questions or wants to learn or anything, I'm always open to chat and meet new people and hear other experiences. Because again, there's so many lakes in Canada. We're very fortunate, and I would love to go all over the place if I can, and vice versa.
Like Canada has the best lake fishing. Like,
oh yeah. I want to go one day up towards like Nunavut, like the Yukon.
Yep.
Yes.
That's on my bucket list. Yeah.
Oh, me too. I've seen those
my bucket list.
Berthas. Oh, it's insane. Beautiful.
Like I'd like to hit Manitoba and then the East Coast to do cod. And then
I want to do cod.
So a young lady I had on my podcast a bit ago, she's from Newfoundland, and she's like, whenever you want to come out cod fishing. I was like, all right, well, we need to make a date for that because she catches cod. So I was like, yep, let's do it, because that's her thing out east, and she's right in Newfoundland. So I'm like, yep, okay, we're gonna pick a date probably next year and go for it, because again, like, these things are on my bucket list. And if you have people, like, flights can be cheap within Canada, and if you have like those people that they're like, oh, here's a place to stay or whatever, it's like, awesome, let's do this. Like, I have no problem opening up my home to like other women of the outdoors that want to come explore my area that they don't normally get to explore. Like, it's amazing. Like, it's adventures and it's fun. It would 100% be fun. Like, there's no way it wouldn't be. Because again, I don't even know if you have salmon out there. We have salmon here type thing. So
we don't. And that's also on my bucket list is salmon. So, I want to do cod. And then again, the Yukon, like those were some serious places I'd like to try and target.
Like, we have like the Lake Ontario salmon up here, like out here. So again, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, I can help you, you can help me. And again, there's nothing it's amazing that our community can do that with social media, with this type of stuff. Like with this podcast, people may reach out to you that you've never even known. And they're like, hey, I heard you on the podcast. Like, I have questions, like, awesome. Like, who knows? Like, that's why I started this, because it's awesome.
No, and thank you so much for having me on your podcast, because it was really nice to get to know you more. It's great to hear about the fishing for you guys there. And I enjoy talking to people about fishing, and anyone that wants to come on down to Manitoba or ask us questions, like I'd say everyone in our province is pretty good about, you want to know something? Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah, perfect.
It's great.
Well, we'll definitely stay connected. Thank you again. I can't thank you enough for coming on, making time out of your day. I know it's probably earlier for you than it is for me here, so I really appreciate that, especially after you worked all day. I do truly appreciate that. But thank you guys again for staying and listening. We'll tune in next week. Otherwise, guys, have a great weekend. Selena, thank you again so much.
You're very welcome. Have a great night.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Bye.